Policing. Is it on the decline? Is two-tier policing really a thing? Or are they merely just following orders from above? Well, today we'll hear from a police officer himself, or an ex-police officer, right here on Nudger's podcast. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's only me, good old Nudger, and I'm back with this. I want to call it a podcast, but I don't want to call it a reaction either. So I came across this video, and it's a ex-police officer. What's his name? Jay Darkmore, and he's given us his little story about his time as a police officer in the UK and why he decided to leave. Now, I'm going to be stopping in parts and talking about what he's saying, giving my opinion. I mean, I've never been a police officer in any way, but I'm from the East End of London. And as anyone knows, the East End has been known for trouble from time to time. And a lot of the police stations in East London are shut down. So, what does that mean? So let's have a listen as to what this man's got to say, and let's go from there, yeah? So, before I hit play, guys, if this interests you in any way, make sure hit that subscribe button. I really want to get this podcast channel up and running, all right? Thanks a lot. Let's go. What's he got to say?
No comment.
What's the reason for
No comment.
Have you been the victim of any crime?
No comment. Shut your mouth. No.
This is a video I never thought I would ever make, and yet here we are. I joined the police as a volunteer in 2015. In 2018, my dreams came true. I managed to get into the police full time, and I felt like a real boy, like a real officer. 25 years old, just got a career I've thought I'd wanted for quite a long time. And then I very quickly realised that the job I thought I was joining was not the job which I was actually joining. And people join the police to help people. They want to make the world a better place. But what I quickly found out was you can't do that. And it's the police themselves that stop you doing that. So this is a message to anybody thinking of joining the police. You really need to have a think about what you are getting yourself in for.
Right, let's just stop there quickly. So, even just then, with what he said, like, if you join up thinking you're going to help anybody, you're not. And the people who are going to stop you doing that is the police. So they're stopping themselves from helping you. So obviously it's the higher ups that are putting the rules down to the local bobbies on the beat, as we always call them, like what they can and can't do, what help they can and can't give. So I can see this being actually pretty interesting.
Because I can guarantee it is not what you think it is. If you're new here, my name is Jay Darkmore and I am a thriller writer and ex-police officer. On this channel I talk about the police, I talk about political topics and anything else which catches my mind. This video is also sponsored by me and my up-and-coming police memoir, The Job's Fuck, Secret Diary of a Police Officer, which comes out on the 28th of March and you can pre-order it right now on Amazon.
Well, that's a nice name for a book, isn't it? Wow. What I'll do, guys, I'll put a link to his channel in the description for you if you want to go and check him out for a bit more of any of his content, okay?
Or you can click the link in the description of this video and you can get yourself a signed copy, because why wait when you don't have to? Now, before I joined the police, I thought that the police represented fairness and equality, and if someone rang the police wanting help and support, then they would get it. I imagined the police was about locking up bad people and helping the victims and helping vulnerable people through times of need. And dare I say, I thought that the law was equal for everybody under it. And oh boy, was I wrong.
What?
And in this video today, we are going to get into exactly what I learned during my 10 years of service on the front line, and why something really needs to change very, very quickly. Otherwise, there's going to be absolute anarchy on our streets.
Now, you've just heard that from an ex-copper. Wow. You know, like, if you think you're joining the police to help people, you're wrong. And the fact that even he's saying if things don't change within the police force, there'll be anarchy on the streets. I mean, let's face it, it's already getting ridiculous, isn't it? When you see pro-Palestine marches and the police are favouring them over everybody else. Anybody else, it seems, are the ones that get shooed out of the way. They're the ones that get arrested. But the pro-Palestinians can get away with it. Why is that? So I can get what he's saying, because one thing I like to do, whether it's people arguing, so let's just say you got a friend who's arguing with his girlfriend. Naturally you're going to side with your friend. Yeah, mate, like, no, she's out of order for doing that. But if you get both sides of that argument, you can tell what the argument was about. I mean, personally, the best thing to do is say, no, mate, it's your relationship, you deal with it. But that's me being a friend. I'm not getting involved unless I really have to, you know. And even then, like I said, I like to get both sides of the argument, because then you can see what's going wrong, whether it's lack of communication, which more often than not it is. It's lack of communication, or communication not done correctly, I find. And if you I think wording is another important role. That if you word things more correctly, then you're more likely to get a better outcome than if you just dismiss it and go, I don't know. So anyway, let's get back onto Jay. Let's see what he's got to say.
Of course, the police wasn't all bad. I had some really, really fun times. There is a great sense of camaraderie when you land on a block. There's a great sense of people willing to help you, to support you with what you need to do and how to really learn how to police and how to deal with the public. Police officers generally get a lot of training in the classroom, but there's only so much law you can learn without actually speaking to a member of the public. And in my opinion, I feel that it should be less time in the classroom and more time actually in company, dealing with the public and responding to live incidents. Just put that back up there, so product placement is fine. Now, when you land on the vision and you land on the block, you do feel like a fish out of water, and you are the newbie, so unfortunately you have to make the brews for the team. You have to be the one to go and do the constant observations at hospital, the constant observations at custody, and you very quickly learn that you're not as important as an officer who can drive on blue lights and who has many, many more years experience. But you know what? You suck it up and you deal with it, because everybody has to start somewhere. You very quickly learn how to operate under pressure, as you are shown a different side of the world, which 99% of the population do not get to see. And one thing which you need to learn very quickly is how to talk, is how to speak to somebody, is how to communicate effectively. Because yes, you can have handcuffs, you can have power, you can have a uniform. If you can't speak to somebody, you're not going to last very long, and you're going to be very bad at your job. Most of the police officers that I know that have been assaulted and frequently got assaulted were the ones who used to walk in screaming, "I am the police, do as I say," and they couldn't speak to anybody. Whereas some of the best police officers I've ever met, the ones who can really get a victim to open up and they can communicate effectively with somebody, are the officers that are able to look past their uniform and actually speak to someone like a human being. Even if it's somebody who they're arresting, they're able to properly speak to somebody and have a conversation with somebody. But unfortunately, that generally comes with experience. And what we are seeing now is we are seeing a lot of police officers that are a lot younger, who are fresh out of university.
And they don't know how to talk to anybody. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that might watch this and have had bad experiences with talking to the police before, whether the police have pulled them over in a car, or even if you're walking along the street and they just want to stop to ask you some questions, you know, the usual "excuse me, sir," like, the way they come over to you, are they just deliberately looking to nick you or arrest you? You know, I use the word nick because that's how we describe it in the UK. So anyone, if you're watching this in America, we don't like always say, "Oh, we got arrested." Where I'm from, it's like, "Oh, I got nicked." You know, "Oh, they're gonna nick me." So yeah, there's the little terminology for you. But and another saying as well is normally when if you're in a car and you're driving along the road and you see a stationary police car with like normally two coppers sitting in it, normally you'll be like, "Ah, they're waiting to nick someone." You know, they're bored, or they pull over and they pull someone over. Ah, they're bored. They just want to nick him. You know, so they do get a lot of flack for that. So that's exactly what he just said.
Or they're doing a policing university degree and they're not learning how to deal with real life. They're learning how to look at something on paper, and it creates a very robotic sort of police force because you have police officers who can't really think for themselves. You have police officers who don't have a lot of life experience. They are seeing this has happened, therefore this needs to happen. Well, policing is not like that. Yes, you can say this person has committed an offence or this thing's happened over here, but is this the appropriate solution for what we have in front of us? And you only get that through life experience and also being able to relate to somebody. If somebody is having a relationship breakdown, their marriage is breaking down, they've been married for 30 years, they have children, they have a home together, and the one partner's just found out that they've got terminal cancer and the other one's been having an affair and the equity in the home's disappeared. How do you expect someone who's 18 years old to even begin to comprehend what that family's going through? And what I certainly found was a lot of the newer officers were not able to use that kind of critical thinking. And because of the requirement to have to complete the university degree in order to get the job, you were attracting much less experienced people and attracting a much more inexperienced demographic and younger demographic into the service. And not to go on about this too much, but when you look at DEI, which stands for diversity, equality and inclusion, the best person for the job wasn't being hired. It was the best person for a statistic. And we will get onto how statistics ultimately destroy the public relationship with the police in just a moment. But this is the problem when it comes to public services, is because we want to try and represent the public that we serve, and someone from a diverse background can have a very unique perspective into somebody's life. But the way we go about it is completely wrong. So what happens is, instead of hiring the best person for the job and making the job role more attractive to that certain demographic which we feel are underrepresented in our organisation, we deliberately don't hire the right person for the job who would be the best fit for the public. And instead what we do is we hire the person who's best for the statistic as a perceived representation of the public. So you might get two people, one is from a BAME or ethnic minority background, and then you have someone like me who's a straight white male. Well, we have lots of straight white men in the police, we need more of this X, Y and Z over here. But I might do really, really well on the tests and in the interviews and fitness wise, etc. compared to this other person. But because I am considered in abundance and not required, then this person's more likely to get the job. So I do think diversity, equality and inclusion has its place, but I think the way we look at it is completely wrong. And when it comes to something like public services, where we need the best people for the job because it can quite often be life and death, we need to make sure that we're getting the right person for the public. And because the public pay for the police service, we need to ensure that the public are getting the best service which they are paying for. And the police now tend to deal with a lot of mental health cases, and that is for the simple reason that ambulances are too expensive to send out. The NHS doesn't have enough of them. A police car is quicker and a police car is cheaper, so we'll send the police first, and then if there is anything else which medically is required, then we might send an ambulance out in about 3 or 4 hours. The police are always the first.
3 or 4 hours.
So when you contact the police and we say, "Oh, we're too busy, we can't get to you, we don't have any police officers available," like, they're not lying, they're just dealing with other incidents. The majority of what the police deal with isn't crime, a lot of it is mental health incidents. Like, if you look here, in 2022, an analysis was conducted, 29 out of 43 police forces revealed a 20% increase in mental health incidents, compared to 2019, which totaled nearly 485,000 incidents. When extrapolated to all forces, this suggested approximately 720,000 incidents nationwide. So quite simply, mental health is on the rise, people need more support, and it's the police that have to go and deal with that. So unfortunately, no, we can't go and investigate your grandmother's burglary because Janet, who's 19, has been on a bender for 4 days and is on a come down and wants to hurt herself. So if you do join the police, don't expect to deal with a lot of crime, expect to deal with a lot of mental health.
Wow. So somebody could be kicking in your front door, wanting to kill you. Don't expect help from the police. That's exactly what he said, because more often than not, they're dealing with Tiny Tina round the corner throwing a paddy because, oh, I'm bipolar. I'm having a bad day. Wow. That's just crazy. Surely priorities, what should take, like, you know, should come into operation here. Not, oh dear. See, this is just where this country's just going to the dogs. It's not going to the dogs, it's gone. You know, they've opened the door, the dog's bolted. So, it's just got worse and worse. Jesus. And did you hear those numbers?
And expect to be assaulted quite a lot. Like I said before, the majority of police officers that get assaulted are generally the ones who can't talk to people. However, there are often times where it doesn't matter how much you talk to somebody or how nice you are, how friendly you try to be, they want to fight. And when we do look at police assaults, we see that from 2020 to 21, there were 36,000 recorded assaults on police officers. And again, these are the recorded assaults. The real number is probably much higher. 2021 to 22, there were 40,000 recorded assaults. 22 to 23, there were 41,745 recorded assaults. And 2023 to 24, there were 45,907 recorded assaults. That's nearly 5.24 assaults an hour. So police officers get assaulted, and we get assaulted quite a lot. And by the time you have finished watching this video...
But that surely should come down to, more often than not, the reason why, I've seen it firsthand, the reason why coppers get punched, more often than not, and they get punched, is because of their attitude. Their attitude stinks. I'm a copper, I'm wearing a uniform, you're going to do what I say. I'm not listening to you, I'm going to arrest you. That's exactly what a lot of the coppers' mentality is. You know, and don't get me wrong, he's just said it himself. It's because they're not hiring the right people and it's not the right training. They're not receiving the right training. So I'm trying to see both sides of the coin here. You know, because I've grown up always, it was never, oh, if you're in trouble, find a policeman. No. The way I grew up was you don't talk to police. You know, so kind of almost like I want to say a bit like the mafia style. You know, you just don't talk to the police. Tell them nothing, they've got nothing. The only person who can incriminate you is yourself, and they will look for that. You know, I mean, I've known police. Right, this is sometimes how dirty the police can get. Yeah, regardless of what he's saying, if they want to put you in, like, get you for it. I've known police to say, like, for people who have been held at the police station, and the police pretend to be nice, oh, do you want to go out and have a cigarette? Obviously, if the guy's a smoker, oh, yeah, please. All right, mate, go on. Let you out the back. All right, stand out the back, has a cigarette, he puts it out. What the geezer, like the poor guy who's being held doesn't see is the police officer pick the cigarette up, and then they've got his DNA. And then they can use that. So, because then they can say, DNA found at the scene. Your DNA matches. Really? Yeah, because we've got it off that cigarette butt. You know, and it's just out of order. So, let's carry on anyway. But like I said, that goes down, I think, to attitude and bad training.
Chances are there's been 1, 2 or 3 police officer assaults. And from what we can see is this problem's only getting worse. I've been spat in the face, I've been punched, I've been bit, I've been kicked. And you would think that the senior officers in charge of ensuring the officers' safety know about this. So therefore they want officers to be doubled up and to have a partner at all times in case something does go wrong. That isn't the case at all. The senior officers would much rather there be police officers single crewed, so one police officer to one car. Therefore, they can attend more incidents and they can hit more statistics and they can hit more charts and make the spreadsheets look better, rather than have the safety of the officers attending the incidents. There were times in my old force where the radios wouldn't work properly, so it posed a serious risk to the officer's safety. There was one time, actually, where a police officer was being attacked and he had to call 999 on his phone for assistance because he couldn't get through on his radio because the radios weren't working properly. The senior leadership knew that the radios weren't working properly, and yet they still insisted on sending out police officers, single crewed, all for the sake of attending more incidents to make themselves look better on paper. So here's another thing which you need to be aware of if you join the police. Your senior leadership do not care about you. You are just a number and you can be very easily replaced. They care about the numbers on a spreadsheet. They do not care about your grievances, your family life, your mental health and your personal safety. As long as their spreadsheets look good, you are secondary, you can be replaced. And that's something which I didn't like understanding when I joined the police, but it's something that came incredibly apparent near the end of my service. And then we wonder,
how can somebody work in an industry where you're getting sent out, possibly, as he said, to get punched, kicked, bit, stabbed, shot maybe, and your supervisors don't care? They don't give a shit because you're replaceable. Oh well, you're injured. Never mind. We'll get so and so to take your place. That ain't good. That ain't good for mental health. Surely.
why so many police officers are leaving. Well, it's simple. The government hates you, the public hate you, the senior leadership don't care about you, the money isn't very good, the hours you work are ridiculous, the chances are you're going to develop quite a lot of PTSD the longer you spend on the front line, and of course the media hate you, and social media is awful when it comes to police officers. Police forces now are really struggling to retain officers. In the last 12 months alone, over 5,000 police officers have resigned, willingly resigned, because the job is awful right now. Like I said, the money's terrible, the way you get treated off your senior management is terrible. You never get a day off because so many staff are leaving, so that means the staff involved currently still doing the job then have to pick up extra shifts and have to do longer shifts. But one of the biggest things for me was the reason why I left. It was the actual leadership themselves, and one way to really alienate and destroy your workforce is to have terrible leadership, and the leadership I had was truly, truly awful. And this was under the guise of helping people. This was under the guise of statistics, in particular around the area of domestic violence, because it was an easy one to justify. In order to arrest somebody, you don't just need an offence, you have to have a necessity to arrest somebody. Simply just suspecting someone of an offence is not enough to actually arrest them. Otherwise, you could arrest somebody for littering, you could arrest somebody for going through a red light.
And they
arrest
do.
someone for absolutely anything, simply because you think they may have done something. No, we need a necessity to do so. There has to be a legitimate reason why this person needs to have their liberty taken away and why this incident needs to be dealt with there and then. And when I joined the police, you were able to attend an incident and evaluate it for what it was. You would look at, okay, well, what evidence do we have? Is this just an allegation, or is it more than an allegation? Do we have any injuries? What's the history like? You do some actual investigating when you got there. However, when I was near the end of my service, I saw a lot of officers who were very inexperienced and a complete change in the ethos. I was finding that there were so many people being arrested with little or no evidence whatsoever. What's happening is the smallest inkling of any offence happening whatsoever, the police were just arresting straight away. They were often arresting the wrong people, they were arresting people without evidence, they were arresting people knowing that the case wouldn't go any further. They were saying it's because of...
They're bored, is what he's saying without saying. They're bored. They would arrest you for nothing. They know it's not going to go any further. They know it. Even if it does go to court, it won't be a big deal. So more often than not, the police don't even turn up, so it gets dismissed. They do it because they're bored.
Of safeguarding, or it's because of this, or it's policy to arrest at a domestic incident. Unfortunately, policy does not dictate law. Regardless of whether somebody has committed an offence or not, is the necessity there to arrest them or not, regardless of policy? We shouldn't be arresting or inventing rules and reasons to arrest somebody purely because of policy. It has to be legal. And the amount of times my old force would have been sued for an unlawful arrest was, I imagine, absolutely staggering. But because the senior officers in charge want a better arrest statistic to make themselves look better when they go for their next promotion, they didn't care. It didn't matter how many times they got sued. It didn't matter how many wrongful arrests were made. It also didn't matter how awful the officers were now being trained in order to not be able to think for themselves and not be able to properly evaluate a case when they go to it, or evaluate an incident when they attend one, or even how to investigate an incident. What also would happen is once somebody's arrested and the defendant has been taken to custody and lodged there, those officers then would pass the case on to somebody else. So those officers wouldn't even need to look at the victim or speak to the victim. In their head, they would go, well, I've enacted an arrest today, therefore my job's now done, I'll pass the case on to somebody else and I will never see it again. Where's the accountability? Where's that desire to need to do a good job and to do the right thing? The case isn't going to be investigated properly, so the suspect's likely to be released without any kind of charge because the officers are not doing their job properly in investigating.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. Exactly what I just said. They pass it on, they don't turn up to court. The case gets dismissed because they don't care. It's a pointless arrest. They do it for the statistics and because they're bored. He's just said it himself.
Incident, and officers are being trained to do something which is illegal. They're not allowed to just arrest people simply because an offence is suspected. They have to have a necessity to arrest, and if that necessity isn't there, then they can't arrest, which means that your tax money is being paid in order for people to sue the police because they're not being trained properly, because they're being forced to make unethical decisions, which is further demoralising the police, which is why so many police officers are leaving, because they have no autonomy over their work anymore. They have to make unlawful, unethical and immoral decisions for the sake of somebody else above them getting another promotion. The system is an absolute shit show. And it is insane that this is actually happening. This is like a dystopian novel. You think and do the wrong thing, you are punished for it. The people involved in doing it don't want to do it, but they're being made to by somebody else. So if you were thinking of joining the police, just know it is your power. It is your power to arrest somebody. If you decide, I do not want to arrest somebody, you can justify it, you will get your senior officer threatening you with action plans and threatening you with this and that and the rest of it. It's just them getting upset because you are not allowing them to get their next promotion by doing something which you shouldn't be doing. Statistics, they are an awful thing and they can be very easily manipulated. But what the senior officers need to understand is that there is a person on the other end of that statistic. And I wish I could go into so much more detail because this video will be so much longer. I do talk about it a lot more in my book, The Job's Fucked, and you can look at it in the description of this video. And I really hope you do. And I think it'll be very, very eye-opening for a lot of people. And if I haven't convinced you yet that the police are completely and utterly fucked and that they are using the idea of domestic violence and helping people as a way to manipulate statistics, then I have one more story for you before we go. I made content about domestic violence and about supporting people and educating people. I did it on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, email. I was really passionate about it because I've been a victim of it myself. I know people that have been victims of it, and I also completed additional training on it too. So here we had myself, who was a police officer, educating and supporting people and raising awareness about domestic violence. We had the police force I worked for who wanted people to be aware and to support people and wanted us to take positive action and to arrest perpetrators of domestic violence. I thought, oh, what a great fit this is. I was called into my senior officer's office and I was told under no circumstances am I allowed to continue making content surrounding domestic violence and helping people. And when I questioned why this was, it was because you are upsetting our partners and they do not like that you're raising awareness about this. And it made sense.
That's disgusting.
If I didn't raise awareness and somebody found themselves in a bad relationship, something bad had to happen, the police were called, they would get the arrest statistic, the charities involved would get funding for supporting the victim, and they may get detections and everything else. Makes the force look better on paper, doesn't it? If I help people and I raise awareness online, somebody may see that video and leave the relationship and never have to call the police, never need the need of the charities. So by me doing what I thought the force wanted to happen and to support people, I was actually upsetting the force because I was potentially taking money away from them. Because they didn't want to stop domestic violence, they wanted to make sure they punished people when it happened. Because one allowed people to be safe, the other one created money, statistics and job promotions for people involved. I think when I realised that the entire organisation, what I worked for, was a total lie. They blatantly lied to your face and told you that they are advocating for one thing, when in reality they were not. It was something completely different. I didn't like that they were officers who were being not listened to, being trampled on, and being stomped on and being made to do things what they didn't agree with, which were immoral and illegal for the sake of somebody else's promotion. And I also didn't like how hard I was working and how hard other officers were working in order to keep a good relationship with the people we worked with. But due to the extra demand caused by this unethical practice, we were physically unable to do our jobs properly. So the reason why I left the police was because the police force I worked for would rather see you get hurt than somebody help you before that happened. The police force I worked for would make more and more ridiculous decisions in order to improve a statistic and therefore to improve somebody's job opportunities rather than help the police officers that were working tirelessly every single day. And the final reason was that it got to the point where no matter what I did or how much I tried, I could not help the people who I wanted to help because I was just so ill myself. So there you have it. I hope this video has been informative and been eye-opening.
Wow. I mean, let me just give my thanks to him for that. I mean, that was just crazy. The things he was saying. You know, the fact that they want to help, but they're told not to by the higher-ups because it interferes with like their policies. And you would never think that, would you? When you're picking up the phone and you're dialing 999 or in America 911 for the police. I'm not sure if this is the same in America, but I'm just going to speak for the UK on this. But it's disgusting, and at the same time, I mean, everybody. Oh, like I said, I don't talk to police like at all. And according to him, it's best not to. But at the same time, you got to kind of feel sorry for them because they've signed up to do a job where they thought originally, or they're going into thinking, oh, I'm going to help everyone. I'm going to make my town a better place. I'm going to make it safer, when you're not. And on top of that, as he said, you're alienated for being a police like a copper. So social media hates you, the government hates you, the very people that employ you hate you. So your supervisors hate you, all the public hate you, and dare I say it, probably I'm not going to give an example, but I can only imagine there's a lot of the police that their family, not to use the word hate, but I can imagine their families don't talk to them about as much as what they could because they're scared of being incriminated. I can imagine a lot of, say, a copper's family, like their brothers or sisters, have got friends that won't talk to them or treat them differently because their brother or sister is a police like a copper. So you've got all that going on. I couldn't do it. You know, like knowing all my brother's friends, like, and are saying, oh no, like they're basically alienating him because of the job. So no, I couldn't do that. Not at all. And I don't get how they do it or how they cope with it. I can see why, as he said, over 5,000 have left in the last 6 months to a year. That's ridiculous. I bet they haven't even taken on that many to replace them. So it does make you think, doesn't it? You know, when you need help, the fact that they're going to be dealing with somebody having a breakdown, and I don't mean their car, over helping somebody who really needs it because their life is being threatened, you know, or they're getting robbed, or a burglary, or any of the other bad things that go on that I'm not going to mention because of YouTube's terms and policies, but it's definitely an eye opener, isn't it? So when you see these coppers and they're acting the way they are, all I'm saying is next time don't hate straight away. Just think to yourself, well, they ain't got a choice. It's coming from the higher ups. So all this two-tier policing, this is from what I've just taken away from what he's just said. All this two-tier policing that everyone is going on about on social media that we have. And it's not just in the UK, it's in America and a lot of other countries. It's not the boots on the ground police that are doing it. It's their higher ups that are telling them, no, you're not going to help these people. You're going to help these people. Why? Because they want to get further. They want promotion. And unfortunately, the boots on the ground are the ones taking the brunt of it. That's just wow. I'm glad I've done this. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, I need you to get into my YouTube channel and check it out, the video. So, and as you know, the YouTube channel is exactly the same as the Spotify channel. It's Nudger's podcast. So just chuck that in, type that into the search bar and it comes up. Alright guys, I'm going to leave that there. Next podcast is what I'm going to be doing will be, what's the next one? I'm going to be doing something about music. I'm going to be talking about music. I'm going to be talking about concerts and the different prices of concert tickets, what you get if you do VIP, stuff like that. So hopefully if you want to tune in, have a listen, because it's going to be interesting. You know, I'm gathering more and more little bits of data. So I'm hopefully going to put together quite an enjoyable little podcast for you for, I don't know, 45 minutes, an hour maximum. So if you want to jump in on that, I'd greatly appreciate it. So until the next time, guys, do me a favour, be good, and I'll see yous on the next podcast. Catch you later.